Welcome to Game Dev London. I'm your host for this episode, Chris Payne, and with me is Richard Hebblewhite. Richard is the Senior Lecturer in Computing at Glyndwr University, Wrexham. He's also Program Leader for Game Development, Game Design and Enterprise and Game Art. And he's also the UK organiser for the Global Game Jam. So welcome to Game Dev London, Rich.
Thank you very much. Great to be here. Good to catch up.
Yes, yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? How has lockdown been for you as an educator? Because like you've had probably one of the most difficult transitions of anybody.
Yeah. I think our industry just perhaps more so schools to begin with, and then later on universities. As a sector, we've taken, let's say, a little bit of a bashing in the media for various different reasons. And yeah, so it was a tough time, especially at the start of the lockdown when everything was just so uncertain. And we didn't really know what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. In our particular case, we were kind of ahead of the game slightly on the basis that we already had quite a good and well-connected Discord community. So it was a natural step for us to just say, you know what, we're just going to run everything in Discord. So we just did that. And there was only a tiny number of our community of students that were not already a part of that community. So it was really easy to kind of just get them involved and hit the ground running from that sense. So from that point of view, it's been good. It's just, as probably everyone is feeling right now, we've had to make a switch to online work. It's all of the workload that comes with that, and many things that are just unforeseen that you just have to deal with on a daily basis. And the complete change of pace was, I'm so used to being in a classroom, standing in front of people and talking, and now I'm sitting in front of I'm sitting here talking to you and doing this kind of thing day in, day out. So it's just a little bit different, and you just kind of roll with it. But yeah, it's been a difficult year so far.
I can imagine. So looking at the bigger picture then, as an educator in the working around the games industry, what's it like trying to keep a course up to date with what is probably one of the fastest changing industries in the world?
It's a challenge. It's one of the first things that we rely on, if you like, is our huge network of graduates that we have out there, and many of those guys are now in very good jobs in very good studios, some of the world's biggest studios. And we have regular contact with those, and all of the things that we do when we come to what we call revalidating our courses, which is the process we go through to put new courses out at a university. When we go through those processes, one of the first things we do is that we get in touch with all of our contacts, not just ex-graduates, but colleagues and partners in the industry, and go to those guys and say, hey, this is what we're thinking, what's your take on it? And design a content around what we feel is a fair balance, because we can't just go to somebody in industry, hang on their every word and say, well, let's make a course that's exactly like that, because there's a balance to be struck. Because as an academic, as a university, we also have to maintain this strong academic theme, as you would imagine, that comes with university level courses. So there's a balance to be struck. So yeah, it's challenging, but we managed to stay, keep afloat or keep ahead just by weight of numbers in terms of the number of contacts and ex-students and partners that we have. So yeah, it's just an ongoing, a never-ending process. Fun though.
So I know that you've I'm not sure how many universities are doing this, but I know that you have introduced some additional elements into your curriculum for video games in partnership with the business school at the university. Did you want to tell us about that a bit?
Yeah, sure. So when we first started running games development courses back in 2006, 2007, we just had one course, and that was a generic computer game development course, which was kind of a little bit of everything. And since that time, we've evolved quite considerably. We've now got different themes of courses. So if you think of the scale, you've got the harder science end, and you've got the softer end of the spectrum. So we've got things like game art at one end, and we've got things like computer game development and games technology at the other end, which are more oriented towards physics, programming, and so forth. But all of those things can be encapsulated with good business acumen. So one of the things we like to do is we have this thing called the accelerator year. So when we get to the final year of our degree, the idea is to get students to think a little bit more about what they're going to do when they leave, and not leave it until it's time to leave, because that's a big problem. There's a lot of people finish their degree. And this is not just applicable to games or computing, or it's a general thing, right? So people will leave university and they think, well, now what shall I do? I should start looking for jobs. But really what you want to be doing is thinking about that when you first start the year, and you're using that final year as not just, as an opportunity to complete your degree, but you've got to use it as an opportunity to set your platform out and get yourself ready for when you leave. So one avenue that has been really successful for us is getting students to think about maybe starting their own companies and spending that final year process building that company, getting a bit of a reputation, getting a first prototype product ready, perhaps searching for some initial seed funding. So by the time you get to the end of that year, what you actually have are a whole host of additional opportunities and decisions to make that you probably wouldn't have had if you just left it until the end, because by then it's too late. So one of the things that we've done is we have a program called Game Design and Enterprise, and the whole point of that is to train people up not only in the aspects of technical game design and those issues that you would normally expect, but also with entrepreneurial activities and business acumen, business startup skills. And then that plugs into this final year where all of our students work together in their different disciplines to form a studio, and then they can run that studio for a year, and some of them decide to continue that process when they leave, so they don't need to find a job because they've kind of got a career that they've carved for themselves, and making a go of that instead. So it's just a different way of thinking and a different host of opportunities. And some students, having been through that process, tend to find it therefore much easier to access mainstream industry positions at big studios, because they've got that year of experience with actual day-to-day studio running and engagement of real-life products that you just don't get on a normal everyday academic program. So from that point of view, it's been a very successful sort of way of thinking for us.
Yeah, and a lot of those university teams forming studios have been quite successful in competitions like Transfuser, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been a participant in Transfuser not since the first year, but since the second year. But we've accumulated just over £40,000 in direct funding for student companies cumulatively in the last few years. One of those studios went on to win the Transfuser Award, which is only given to student companies that go on to be successful after the Transfuser program. So Transfuser itself, for those who don't know it, it's basically funded by UK government via the UK Games Fund. And it's basically the grassroots system that we use for funding people coming from university to have a go at starting their own company and trying to get a product launched, basically. And it's a competition.
Yeah, because I've obviously, for full disclosure, I've worked with Rich on sort of like panels advising some of the student teams and giving them feedback on their pitches before they go into the competition. And it's great. I think it's really good practice, because I worked in the industry for 20 years before I ever needed to actually pitch anything to anyone. It is a different skill set, but it's quite critical if you're planning to build your own studio. So that's really good. So you've also been working on your own program to try to help give student teams a bit of a lift up. Do you want to talk about Games Talent Wales?
Yeah, sure. So we launched Games Talent Wales in tail end of 2019, and it ran in the academic year 18-19 for the first time. And basically what we did is we wanted to broaden the number of opportunities given to students, because Transfuser, for example, is a great program, but of course, because it's popular, there are limitations to the number of teams that you can enter. You can't just enter infinite numbers of teams. So one of the things that we found is that we would have quite a lot of different teams who are really interested in entering it, and many of them might actually have a real chance of launching a real life product as a studio. And what we found was that some of the teams who didn't quite make it into the Transfuser program were left a little bit disillusioned, and then would kind of just disband and gravitate towards other things. Yeah. And what we wanted to do was think, well, you know what? That team, if they were given an opportunity to enter, let's say, an alternative funding program, they've probably got a good chance of being successful, just like any of the other Transfuser teams. So we launched Games Talent Wales basically with that idea in mind, only obviously to underpin and help rejuvenate the Welsh grassroots gaming industry. And that was the idea behind it, really.
Hi, I'm Chris Payne for Game Dev London. You can visit our website at gamedev.london to find more information about where to get the full version of that interview, as well as information about our live events, Twitch streams, competitions, game jams, and Discord. Like and subscribe if you would like to be notified about more videos, and thanks for watching.